Life has a peculiar way of orchestrating moments that change everything. On American Airlines Flight 2187 from Los Angeles to Boston, Daniel Reyes clutched his boarding pass, his weathered hands trembling slightly. It had taken him 6 months of overtime at both jobs to afford this trip, and the surprise first-class upgrade felt like a small miracle. But when he saw the elegant woman struggling to find space for her elderly mother, something in her worried eyes reminded him of his late wife. Without hesitation, he offered his seat, ignoring the protest of his aching back from another long day at the garage. He never noticed the surprised glance from the flight attendant, or how the woman studied his reflection in the window as he shuffled to the back of the plane. What would happen when she discovered the real reason behind his desperate journey to Boston? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The alarm blared at 4:30 a.m., same as it had every morning for the past 3 years. Daniel Reyes reached for it with the practiced motion of a man who couldn't afford the luxury of a snooze button. His muscles ached from yesterday's double shift, but the photo on his nightstand gave him the strength to swing his legs over the side of the bed. Elena's smile, frozen in time, holding their newborn Sophia in the hospital. The last truly happy moment before everything changed. He moved quietly through the small apartment, his sock-clad feet avoiding the creaky floorboards outside Sophia's room. Through the crack in her door, he could see her chest rising and falling, her breathing slightly labored even in sleep. The nebulizer on her bedside table caught the dim light from the hallway, a constant reminder of why he pushed himself so hard. In the kitchen, Daniel started the coffee maker, a salvation from the local thrift store, and pulled out Sophia's medications for the day. 7 bottles now, each one more expensive than the last. He lined them up with military precision, counting out doses into the weekly organizer. The routine was so familiar he could do it with his eyes closed, but he never did. One mistake could be catastrophic. The small envelope tucked behind the coffee filters caught his attention, as it did every morning. The latest medical bill still unopened. He knew what it would say. Another 5-figure sum that might as well have been $1 million, but he'd figure it out. He always did. By 5:15, he was backing his ancient Toyota out of the apartment complex, the engine protesting the cold morning air. The auto shop wouldn't open until 7. But old Mr. Chen at the convenience store always let him use the back room to change into his coveralls. It was a small kindness that meant everything, letting him keep his second job as the hospital's evening janitor secret from his day shift co-workers. The morning commute was his thinking time, strategizing how to make ends meet. The specialist in Boston had been recommended by 3 different doctors now. The best in the field, they'd said, before awkwardly shuffling papers when he asked about the cost. But what choice did he have? Sophia's condition wasn't improving, and the local doctors were running out of ideas. At a red light, Daniel pulled out his wallet and touched the first-class boarding pass tucked inside. A computer error, the gate agent had said. A free upgrade. It had felt like a sign, like Elena watching over them. He'd never flown first class before, had barely flown at all. But when he saw that woman struggling with her elderly mother, her face etched with the same worry he saw in his own mirror every morning, the choice was simple. Elena would have done the same thing. The light turned green, and Daniel merged onto the freeway as the sun began to paint the sky in shades of hope. In his rearview mirror, he could see the city waking up, people starting their days with their own struggles, their own battles. He said a silent prayer, the same one he'd said every morning since Elena passed. Give me strength to be the father she needs. Help me find a way. He didn't know it yet, but sometimes prayers are answered in the most unexpected ways. And sometimes a simple act of kindness on an airplane can set in motion events that change everything. Ava Sinclair sat in her penthouse office, 60 stories above the bustle of downtown Boston, watching the same sunrise paint the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold. Her mother, Margaret, dozed in the first-class seat beside her as their private jet made its final approach. The flight attendant had already radioed ahead. Their car would be waiting on the tarmac. No need to brave the terminal crowds. But Ava's mind wasn't on the landing. Her tablet displayed a photo that the flight crew had discreetly taken. A man in worn coveralls, his boarding pass visible as he helped her mother to the first-class seat he'd given up. Daniel Reyes, according to the passenger manifest. Her security team had compiled a preliminary report within hours. 2 jobs, a deceased wife, a sick daughter. A man who had nothing to spare, yet gave anyway. Miss Sinclair, her assistant James, appeared at her elbow with his ever-present tablet. The board is asking about the quarterly projections again, and the Times wants to know if you'll comment on the Forbes article about being America's most reclusive CEO. Ava waved him off, zooming in on the image. There was something in Daniel's eyes that haunted her, a quiet dignity, a strength born of necessity. She recognized it. She'd seen it in her own mother's eyes 25 years ago, when they'd lived in a one-room apartment, and Margaret had worked 3 jobs to afford Ava's computer classes. "James," she said quietly, still studying the photo, "what do we know about pediatric specialists in Boston?" Her assistant's fingers flew across his tablet. "Dr. Sarah Thompson at Massachusetts General is considered the best. She's actually on the board of your mother's foundation, though you haven't attended those meetings book her. Clear her schedule if you have to. And I want to know everything about Daniel Reyes's daughter's condition, every detail, and treatment option." She paused, considering. "And James, make it anonymous. No connection to me or the company, of course." James hesitated. "The board meeting will have to wait." Ava stood, gazing out at the city she'd helped reshape with her technology empire. Sometimes there are more important things than quarterly projections. The city sprawled below her, a maze of possibilities and connections. In her world of algorithms and data, everything could be traced, tracked, optimized. But this wasn't about optimization. This was about something her mother had taught her long ago, something that no amount of success could make her forget. Margaret stirred in her seat, blinking awake. "That nice man," she murmured, still half asleep, "reminded me of your father, always putting others first." Ava touched her mother's hand, remembering the days before success, before wealth, when kindness was all they had to give. She'd built her company on the principle that technology could change lives. Maybe it was time to remember that change could come in smaller, more personal ways too. She pulled up another screen on her tablet, this one showing Sophia Reyes's medical records. The complexity of the case was daunting, but Ava had built her empire by solving impossible problems. This would just be a different kind of challenge. "Get me everything you can find," she told James, "and set up a secure channel, if we're going. To help, we need to be careful, smart, because Ava Sinclair hadn't become one of the most powerful women in tech by being reckless, but she also hadn't forgotten what it meant to need a miracle. And sometimes, just sometimes, being able to provide that miracle was worth more than all the billions in her bank account." She looked once more at Daniel's photo before closing her tablet. In a world where every action was calculated for maximum return on investment, his simple act of kindness stood out like a beacon. Perhaps it was time for her to remember that the most valuable returns couldn't always be measured in dollars and cents. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between a pizza flyer and a cable TV promotion. Daniel almost missed it. Plain white, no return address, just his name typed in a simple font. He opened it while standing at the mailbox, expecting another bill, another reminder of how far behind they were getting. Instead, a single sheet of paper fell out. At first, he thought it was a mistake. The hospital's letterhead was familiar enough, but the words beneath it didn't make sense. Balance, paid in full. His hands started shaking as he read the amount, $47,183.92, the exact total he'd been losing sleep over for months. "This has to be a mistake," he muttered, pulling out his phone to call the hospital's billing department, the representatives. Her voice was cheerful, matter-of-fact. "No mistake, Mr. Reyes. Your account was settled last week by the Margaret Sinclair Foundation. They also requested we inform you that Sophia has been accepted into a special pediatric care program. Dr. Sarah Thompson's office will be calling to schedule a consultation." Daniel sat heavily on the apartment complex's front steps, the world spinning slightly. Dr. Thompson, the specialist in Boston everyone said was impossible to see, the one whose waiting list was longer than some prison sentences. "I don't understand," he managed. "I never applied for any foundation support." "Sometimes guardian angels find us, Mr. Reyes," the representative said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "I'd say someone up there is looking out for you and Sophia." Up in their second-floor apartment, he could hear Sophia coughing. The sound that usually filled him with dread now carried a different weight. Hope, maybe, or miracle. He wasn't sure which word fit better. Later that evening, after Sophia's nebulizer treatment and their dinner of microwave mac and cheese, her favorite, Daniel sat at their small kitchen table staring at the letter. He'd read it so many times the words had started to blur, but something about the foundation's name tickled at his memory. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Rodriguez next door. "Channel 7, quick! Your airline lady!" He flicked on their ancient TV just in time to catch a news segment about Ava Sinclair, the reclusive tech billionaire. The reporter was talking about her latest innovation in medical technology, but Daniel barely heard the words. He was focused on the elegant older woman standing beside her in the photo. Margaret Sinclair, her mother, the same woman he'd given up his seat for. "No way," he whispered, but even as the words left his mouth he knew. The foundation's name, the impossible appointment with Dr. Thompson. It couldn't be coincidence. Sophia padded out of her room, clutching her worn stuffed elephant. "Daddy, are you crying?" He quickly wiped his eyes, pulling her into his lap. "Happy tears, mija. Remember how we talked about Mama being our angel in heaven?" She nodded solemnly. "Well, I think she just sent us some help. Is that why the doctor I called today? The nice lady who said she could help me breathe better?" Daniel's heart skipped. "Dr. Thompson called." "When?" "While you were in the shower. She said she has a special machine that might help my lungs. Can we go see her, Daddy? Please?" Hugged her tighter, breathing in the lavender scent of her shampoo. "Yes, mi amor, we're going to Boston." That night, after Sophia was asleep, Daniel sat on their small balcony, looking up at the stars. The same stars Elena used to say were windows for angels to peek through. He thought about kindness, about how a simple act could ripple outward in ways you never expected. His phone buzzed again, an email from his supervisor at the hospital. The night shift position was being eliminated, but he was being offered a day job in maintenance instead. Better hours, better pay, full benefits starting immediately. Another miracle? He was starting to lose count. Somewhere in Boston, in a penthouse, office high above the city, Ava Sinclair was probably looking at the same stars. He wondered if she knew what her help meant, how it felt to suddenly be able to breathe again, to see a path forward where before there had only been walls. "Thank you," he whispered to the night sky, meaning it for both his angels, the one in heaven and the one who'd reminded him that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, hope was enough. "We're taking an awful risk, Miss Sinclair." James paced the length of Ava's office, his tablet clutched to his chest like a shield. "The board already thinks you're distracted from core business objectives. If they find out we're using foundation resources for a personal project—" "It's not personal," Ava interrupted, though the leather-bound diary on her desk argued otherwise. Her mother's diary chronicling their own struggles 25 years ago. It's proof of concept, a test case for targeted intervention in medical care accessibility. She turned from the wall of screens, displaying Daniel Reyes's data. Work, schedules, medical bills, Sophia's treatment history. The algorithms she'd built to revolutionize tech were now mapping out ways to change 2 lives without revealing her hand. Besides, she added softly, the foundation is my mother's. She approves. As if summoned, Margaret Sinclair appeared in the doorway, moving slowly with her walker, but with the same sharp gleam in her eye that had sustained them through years of poverty. More than approves. That man reminded me of your father, Ava. The same quiet dignity, the same willingness to sacrifice everything for family. Ava's throat tightened. Her father had died when she was Sophia's age, leaving them with nothing but medical bills and Margaret's determination to give her daughter a better life. The parallel wasn't lost on her. The hospital board accepted our proposal, James reported, his professional mask slipping back into place. Dr. Thompson is intrigued by the case, but there's something else. He hesitated. The night shift elimination at the hospital. It's real. Budget cuts. Perfect timing for a restructuring, Ava mused. Have HR create that maintenance position, same benefits package as our tech staff. The union will understand that improving working conditions lifts everyone. She smiled. My mother taught me that too. Margaret settled into her favorite chair, the one positioned to catch the morning sun. You were too young to remember the church food bank, but I'll never forget how that one bag of groceries every week kept us going. Small kindnesses matter. Ava picked up her mother's diary, its pages worn soft with time. One entry had haunted her since this began. Today, a stranger paid for Ava's antibiotics. They'll never know that their kindness meant I could afford her coding class this month. One small act changes everything. The Foundation's new initiative, Ava said, an idea forming. What if we called it ripple effect? Focus on identifying cases where targeted intervention can create cascading positive changes. James was already typing. It's good PR. Shows social responsibility, innovation in philanthropic approaches. Shows nothing, Ava cut in. We do this quietly, no press releases, no social media campaigns, just help where it's needed, when it's needed. She gazed out at the Boston skyline, thinking of another father, looking at the same view, probably wondering if this streak of good fortune could last. Sometimes the most powerful changes happen in silence. Her mother smiled, the same smile. Ava remembered from childhood when she'd done something that made Margaret particularly proud. Like a pebble in a pond, Margaret said. You never know how far the ripples will reach. Speaking of ripples, James interjected, Dr. Thompson's office confirms the consultation for next week, and the analytics team found 3 more cases, similar to Mr. Reyes's. Single parents, chronic childhood illnesses, multiple jobs. Start the process, Ava nodded. But Daniel Reyes is our prototype. We learn from this case, refine our approach. She touched her tablet, bringing up Sophia's. Latest medical data. We need to prove that changing one life can change a community. As if to underscore her point, an alert flashed across her screen. Daniel's neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, posting on social media about miracles happening to good people. The algorithm she'd designed to track any online mentions was working perfectly. Your father would be proud, Margaret said quietly. He always said success wasn't about how high you could climb, but how many people you could lift up with you. Ava looked at the diary, at the screens full of data, at her mother's knowing smile. She'd built an empire on understanding patterns, on seeing connections others missed. Now she was learning that the most important connections weren't in the data at all. They were in the quiet moments of kindness that changed everything. Sophia's new art journal lay open on the kitchen table, its pages filled with bright splashes of color, a stark contrast to the neat row of medication bottles beside it. Daniel watched as his daughter drew with an energy he hadn't seen in months, her breathing noticeably easier with the new treatment Dr. Thompson had prescribed. Look, Daddy, she said, holding up her latest creation. It's us in Boston. There's the big building where the nice doctor lives. And there's the duck boats we saw, and there's you smiling because you're not so tired anymore. Daniel touched the drawing gently, his throat tight. She'd captured more truth than she knew. The new maintenance position meant no more night shifts, no more double jobs. For the first time in years, he was actually getting enough sleep. It's beautiful, Mija. Maybe we should send one to Dr. Thompson to say thank you. Sophia beamed, already reaching for a fresh page. Can I make one for the angel too? Angel, the one who made everything better. Mrs. Rodriguez says, when good things happen like magic, it means an angel is watching over you, like Mama. From next door, the sounds of Mrs. Rodriguez's telenovela drifted through the thin walls, punctuated by her occasional commentary to her cats. She'd appointed herself their unofficial guardian since Elena's passing, and lately she'd been practically bursting with theories about their change in fortune. First the medical bills, then the job. Now this fancy doctor, she'd said yesterday, pressing a container of her famous arroz con pollo into his hands. Dios works in mysterious ways, Daniel. But he always works through people. Someone up there has big plans for you, and that precious Nina. Daniel picked up one of Sophia's new medications, studying the label. The prescription would have cost more than a month's rent, but the foundation covered everything. It all felt surreal, like a dream he might wake up from at any moment. His phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Thompson's office. Great news! Sophia's latest test results show significant improvement. Keep following the treatment plan. See you next month. Daddy, you're doing it again. Doing what, sweetheart? Looking scared when good things happen. Sophia put down her crayon and fixed him with a look so much like Elena's, it made his heart ache. Mama always said being scared of happy is silly. He laughed despite himself. She did say that, didn't she? Come here, you. He pulled her into a hug, marveling at how much stronger she felt. The constant wheezing that had been the soundtrack to their lives was fading, replaced by giggles and chatter about art class and the friends she was making now that she could participate in school activities. The wall calendar caught his eye, the one where he used to track bills and overtime shifts. Now it marked Sophia's doctor appointments, art classes, and his regular work schedule. Simple things that had seemed impossible just months ago. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Mrs. Rodriguez stood there, practically vibrating with excitement. Daniel, you won't believe. Here, look. She thrust her tablet at him, open to a news article. That company that hired you for maintenance? It's owned by Sinclair Tech. The same people who run the foundation that's helping Sophia. Don't you see? It's all connected. He took the tablet, staring at the photo of Ava Sinclair and her mother, the same woman from the plane. The pieces started falling into place. The foundation's name, the timing, the string of fortunate events. Mrs. Rodriguez, he said slowly, could I borrow your tablet for a minute? After she left, he sat researching while Sophia drew. The Margaret Sinclair Foundation had started small, he learned, focusing on medical care accessibility. But lately, they'd launched something called the Ripple Effect Initiative, a program designed to create comprehensive positive change in people's lives. What are you reading, Daddy? He looked at his daughter, healthier and happier than she'd been in years. Then back at the photo of Ava Sinclair. I'm reading about angels, Mija. The kind that work in mysterious ways. Sophia nodded sagely, adding another splash of color to her drawing. Like Mama always said, sometimes the best kind of magic is just people being kind to each other. Out. In the hall, Mrs. Rodriguez's cats chased each other past their door, and somewhere in Boston, Daniel knew, an angel in a penthouse office was proving that his daughter was right. The Massachusetts General Hospital lobby buzzed with its usual morning activity, but Daniel noticed something different today. Teams of workers were setting up display boards and equipment for some kind of presentation. His new maintenance badge gave him access to the whole building now, and he found himself lingering as he finished his rounds, reading the signs. Sinclair Tech Medical Innovation Summit. Beautiful work, isn't it? A voice startled him from his observations. An elegant older woman with a walker stood beside him, studying the same display. Something about her seemed familiar. "My daughter's company," she continued, pride evident. In her voice, "She's revolutionizing pediatric care monitoring, though she'd rather hide in her lab than present it herself." Before Daniel could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. Camera flashes lit up the lobby as Ava Sinclair herself strode through the doors, flanked by assistants. Daniel's heart skipped. The woman from the plane. She looked different in person than in the photos he'd studied on Mrs. Rodriguez's tablet. More human, somehow. "Miss Sinclair, can you comment on the Ripple Effect initiative? Is it true you're personally selecting cases for intervention? Why the focus on single parents?" She ignored the reporters with practiced ease, but Daniel caught the slight tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted around the lobby, seeking escape. He recognized that look. He'd worn it himself often enough when bills came due, and he had no answers. "Oh dear," the older woman sighed. "She hates this part, always has." She turned to Daniel with a conspiratorial smile. "Would you be a dear and show me where I might find a quiet place to rest? These old legs aren't what they used to be." Daniel glanced at his watch. His shift had technically ended, but something made him offer his arm. "There's a nice sitting area in the pediatric wing. My daughter loves it because of the fish tank." As they walked slowly through the corridors, Margaret, as she insisted he call her, asked about his work, his daughter, his life with genuine interest. He found himself sharing more than he intended, about Sophia's improving health, about the Foundation's help, about his gratitude. "Sometimes," Margaret said thoughtfully, "the universe has a way of completing circles we didn't even know we were drawing." She patted his arm as they reached the sitting area. "Like giving up a first-class seat and finding out you've actually given someone a gift they desperately needed." Daniel stopped short, the pieces clicking into place. "You're Margaret Sinclair." She smiled, settling into a chair near the fish tank. "And you're Daniel Reyes, the man who reminded my daughter that sometimes the simplest acts of kindness can change everything." Before he could process this, Sophia's voice rang out from down the hall. "Daddy, look what Dr. Thompson gave me!" She came running, waving a new art tablet. "It's for digital art. She says I can make animations now and—" She stopped, noticing. "Margaret. Oh, hello. Do you like fish too?" "I love fish," Margaret replied warmly, "and I love art even more. Would you show me how your new tablet works?" As Sophia eagerly demonstrated her gift, Daniel's attention was drawn to a figure standing in the hallway. Ava Sinclair had escaped her media entourage, but now stood frozen, watching the scene before her. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the busy hospital faded away. She took a half-step forward, hesitation warring with something else on her face, but before either of them could speak, her assistant appeared, urgently whispering about schedules and presentations. "Time to go, dear," Margaret called out, making both Daniel and Ava jump. "Your public awaits." Ava nodded, composing herself. "Yes, of course." She glanced at Daniel again, then Sophia, then back to her mother. "The presentation starts in 20 minutes. Will you—" "I'll be there," Margaret assured her. She turned to Sophia. "And maybe we'll see you at the next art therapy session. I hear they're getting some amazing new equipment donated." As Ava disappeared down the hall, Daniel watched. Sophia chatting animatedly with Margaret about art and fish and dreams. The circle was indeed completing, but he had a feeling they were all still discovering exactly what shape it would take. The art therapy room had become Sophia's favorite place in the hospital, its walls covered with children's artwork and windows letting in streams of afternoon sunlight. Daniel usually used his lunch break to watch her class, but today he was fixing the new digital art display, a recent donation from Sinclair Tech. "The blue wire connects to the power supply," a voice said behind him. "Not the red one." He turned to find Ava Sinclair standing in the doorway, looking decidedly less corporate than in her press photos. She wore a simple sweater and slacks, her hair loose around her shoulders. "You know about electronics?" he asked, then immediately felt foolish. Of course she did. She ran a tech empire. A hint of a smile touched her lips. "I used to build computers, from scraps, back when we couldn't afford new ones." She moved closer, examining the display. "May I?" Their hands brushed as she took the wire, and Daniel caught a whiff of something subtle. Lavender, maybe. The same scent his wife used to wear. The memory caught him off guard. "You know," he said carefully, watching her work, "I never got to. Thank the person who helped us. The foundation, the job, Dr. Thompson. It changed everything for us." Ava's hands stilled for a moment. "The foundation helps many families," she said softly, not meeting his eyes. "Your case fit our criteria." "Perfectly. And the first-class seat? Was that part of the criteria too?" The question hung in the air between them. Ava finally looked up, something vulnerable crossing her face. "Your kindness that day, it reminded me of something I'd forgotten. How a single moment of grace can echo through someone's life." Before Daniel could respond, children's voices filled the hallway, the art class arriving. Sophia burst in first, stopping short when she saw them. "Ms. Ava, you came." She rushed forward, then remembered her manners and offered a small curtsy that made both adults smile. "Did you get my thank you drawing? I gave it to your mom to give to you." Ava's professional mask slipped completely, revealing genuine warmth. "I did. It's hanging in my office right now, though I'm not sure I deserve a halo quite that big." "Mrs. Rodriguez says you're our angel," Sophia stated matter-of-factly, pulling out her art supplies. "She says only angels help people without wanting credit, like Mama does from heaven." Daniel watched as Ava absorbed this, saw the slight tremor in her hands as she helped Sophia set up her tablet. Here was the most powerful woman in tech, brought to earth by a child's simple truth. "Your mama must be very proud of you," Ava said finally, her voice gentle. "You've gotten so good with the digital art tools." "She is. Daddy says she sends me ideas in my dreams." Sophia looked between them conspiratorially. "I think she sent you to help us too. That's why Daddy gave up his seat. She knew you were important." The other children were filing in now, the art therapist calling them to attention. Daniel expected Ava to leave, to return to her world of board meetings and innovations. Instead, she pulled up a small chair next to Sophia. "Would you mind if I stayed for the class?" she asked, directing the question to both of them. "I'd love to learn how you create those beautiful animations." Daniel watched as his daughter excitedly showed the CEO of Sinclair Tech how to draw a digital butterfly, complete with moving wings. The scene struck him as both surreal and perfectly natural. Two souls connecting over art and kindness, ranks and roles forgotten. Through the window, he caught sight of Margaret in the hallway. Watching with satisfied smile, she gave him a small wave before continuing on her way, her walker making a gentle tap-tap-tap that seemed to echo the rhythm of change. "Daddy, look," Sophia called. "Miss Ava helped me make the butterfly land on a flower, and watch, when you touch it." The butterfly erupted into a shower of smaller butterflies, each one carrying a different wish written in Sophia's careful handwriting. Health, joy, family, love. Ava's eyes met his over Sophia's head, and in that moment, something shifted between them. The gratitude and mystery fell away, replaced by something simpler, more profound. Two people who understood loss and hope, watching a child paint her dreams in light. Sometimes, Daniel realized, angels didn't wear halos or wings. Sometimes they wore business suits and carried the weight of empires, and sometimes they simply sat in small chairs, drawing butterflies with children who reminded them of why they built those empires in the first place. The letter arrived in a plain envelope, just like the first one had. But this time, Daniel recognized the precise handwriting that addressed it. Inside, a single sheet of cream-colored paper held just a few lines. "Some people paint with brushes. Others paint with kindness. Your daughter does both. The children's art exhibition next month has a spot reserved for her work. No cameras, no press, just art and hope and healing. He traced the elegant signature, remembering how Ava's hands had moved so precisely when fixing the digital display. In the weeks since the art class, he'd found himself thinking about her more than he cared to admit. Not the CEO from the magazines, but the woman who sat in a tiny chair drawing butterflies with his daughter. Mrs. Rodriguez's voice carried through the open window, speaking to her cats as she watered her plants. "I told you, Pepito. The news says Sinclair Tech's stock dropped because their CEO is distracted by personal projects." Ha! Personal projects, they say. More like personal growth. Sometimes the richest people are the poorest in spirit until they remember how to be human. Daniel smiled, tucking the letter away as his phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Thompson. "Sophia's latest results are remarkable. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. P.S. She's quite the artist. The whole department is talking about her butterfly series, the butterfly series." He'd come home yesterday to find Sophia surrounded by digital prints, each one showing the same butterfly landing on different people's shoulders. Dr. Thompson, Margaret, Mrs. Rodriguez, and yes, Ava. Guardian angels need to rest sometimes too. "Daddy," she'd explained with childhood wisdom. A notification popped up on his phone, another article about Ava Sinclair. The business papers were buzzing with speculation about her recent behavior. Missed board meetings, frequent visits to the hospital's pediatric wing, a sudden interest in art therapy programs. The photo showed her leaving the hospital, and he recognized the tablet she carried, the same model she'd helped Sophia master. "Your CEO friend is in trouble," his supervisor mentioned during their morning meeting. "Board's not happy about her new priorities. Guess no good deed goes unpunished." The words nagged at him all day. During his lunch break, he found himself in the hospital's small chapel, sitting in the same pew where he used to pray during Sophia's worst nights. The stained glass cast colored shadows that reminded him of Sophia's digital butterflies. "I don't know what to do, Elena," he whispered. "She helped us so much, and now she's paying for it. But every time I see her with Sophia, she seems more alive, like she found something she didn't know she was missing." A noise made him turn. Margaret stood in the doorway, her walker making soft sounds on the stone floor. "Mind if I join you? My legs aren't what they used to be, and this chapel has the most comfortable pews in Boston." She settled beside him with a knowing look. "Talking to your wife?" "I still talk to Ava's father, especially when I see her becoming more like him every day, putting people before profits, letting her heart lead even when her head tells her to be sensible." "The board," Daniel started, "has forgotten that Sinclair Tech was built on human connection, not just circuits and code." Margaret's voice held steel beneath its gentleness. "My daughter spent 10 years building an empire. Maybe it's time she remembered why she wanted to build it in the first place." She pulled out her phone, showing him a photo he hadn't seen before. Young Ava and her father, building a computer from salvaged parts. The same focused expression she'd worn while fixing the art display. "The exhibition," Daniel said slowly. "Sophia's art. They'll figure it out, that she's helping us personally." Margaret's eyes twinkled. Perhaps it's time they did. Sometimes the best way to protect a miracle is to share it. Later that evening, as Sophia worked on her latest digital creation, Daniel watched her add small details. A butterfly landing on a computer keyboard, a woman in a business suit teaching art to children, two people finding each other through simple acts of kindness. "What are you calling this one, Misha?" Sophia beamed, adding one final touch, a soft glow around all the figures, like halos made of pixels and light. "Ripple effects," she said, "because that's what happens when angels learn to be human again." Out in the gathering dusk, a real butterfly landed on their windowsill, its wings catching the last rays of sun. Sometimes, Daniel thought, the most important messages came in the simplest forms. The photo hit social media on a quiet Sunday morning. Ava Sinclair, the famously reclusive CEO of Sinclair Tech, sitting cross-legged on the floor of the hospital's art therapy room, helping a young girl with her digital art. The headline above it read, "Tech Titan's Secret Mission, the real story behind the Ripple Effect Initiative." Daniel's phone hadn't stopped buzzing since Mrs. Rodriguez burst into their apartment, newspaper in hand. They found out about everything, the foundation, the job, the medical care. It's all over the business section. Now, he stood in his small kitchen reading the article for the 10th time. The reporter had pieced it all together. The first class seat exchange, the mysterious foundation help, the string of coincidences that had transformed their lives. What was meant to be a quiet miracle had become front-page news. "Daddy?" Sophia called from her room. "There are people with cameras." Outside, Mrs. Rodriguez is yelling at them in Spanish. He peered through the blinds. Sure enough, a small cluster of reporters had gathered in the apartment complex's parking lot, while Mrs. Rodriguez stood on her balcony, brandishing a broom and delivering what sounded like a very colorful opinion of their journalistic ethics. His work phone rang. His supervisor. "Daniel, you might want to turn on the financial news. Well, you should see for yourself." The TV flickered to life, just in time, to catch a panel of business analysts debating Ava's future at Sinclair Tech. Sources say the board is meeting in emergency session. Questions are being raised about the CEO's judgment. Using company resources, who for personal charitable projects. The words felt like physical blows. This was exactly what Margaret had worried about, what Ava had tried to prevent by keeping her involvement quiet. His phone buzzed again, a text from Dr. Thompson. "Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. Some things are more important than stock prices." A sleek black car pulled up outside, dispersing the reporters. James, Ava's assistant, emerged with an umbrella despite the clear sky, a shield from prying cameras. "Mr. Reyes, Miss Sinclair requests your presence at the office. Immediately, if possible." The Sinclair Tech building felt like a fortress under siege, with security guards at every entrance and phones ringing constantly. James led him through a maze of corridors to a private elevator, his usual professional calm slightly frayed at the edges. "She hasn't left the office since the story broke," he explained quietly. "The board's demanding answers, shareholders are panicking, and the media's having a field day. But she just sits there, looking at your daughter's artwork and smiling like she knows something they don't." The elevator opened directly into Ava's penthouse office. She stood at the window, still wearing yesterday's clothes, while Margaret dozed on a nearby couch. The wall behind her desk was covered in Sophia's digital butterflies, each one seeming to glow in the morning light. "I'm sorry," Daniel started, but Ava raised a hand to stop him. "Don't be." "I'm not." She turned, and he was struck by how peaceful she looked despite everything. "They think I've lost focus, that I'm risking the company's future on some personal crusade. They don't understand that this—" She gestured to Sophia's art. "This is why I built all of this in the first place, to make real change in real lives. But your position, your company, will survive." Margaret's voice came from the couch, though she hadn't opened her eyes. "The board forgets that Ava holds controlling interest, and that some of their own children benefit from the Foundation's medical programs." Ava smiled at her mother's words. "They're not wrong that I've changed. Meeting you and Sophia, it reminded me of who I used to be, who I want to be again." She picked up a tablet, showing him a live stream of the hospital's art therapy room. Children worked at the new digital stations, their art flowing across screens that would have seemed like magic when Ava was building her first computer. "The initiative is expanding," she continued. "More hospitals, more families, more ripples. Let them question my judgment. Some things are worth fighting for." A notification popped up on her screen. Sophia uploading her latest creation, a digital garden where butterflies carried messages between people, building bridges of light and color. Below it, she'd written, "For Ms. Ava, sometimes angels need us to help them too." Daniel watched as Ava traced the words with a finger, leaving a slight smudge on the screen. Outside her office, phones kept ringing, reporters kept shouting questions, and boards kept meeting in emergency sessions. But in here, surrounded by digital butterflies and the proof of lives changed, none of that seemed to matter. So, Ava said finally, "Shall we give them something real to talk about?" The board meeting minutes appeared on every major financial news site simultaneously. Motion to remove Ava Sinclair as CEO of Sinclair Tech, effective immediately. The corporate coup had begun. James burst into Ava's office, tablet clutched to his chest. "They're saying you've breached fiduciary duty. Harrison's leading the charge. He's lined up offshore investors to buy controlling interest if they can force a stock sale. They're using the foundation's expenses as justification." Ava stood at her window, watching rain streak down the glass. The same rain that had cancelled Sophia's outdoor art therapy session, the first one she'd had to miss. How long? 24 hours until the emergency shareholder meeting. If they succeed... He hesitated. The new board's first action would be to dissolve the foundation. All current medical support programs would be terminated immediately. The words hung in the air like smoke. Hundreds of families, not just Daniel. And Sophia depended on that support. Lives balanced on the edge of a corporate boardroom decision. "Ms. Sinclair?" Her secretary's voice crackled over the intercom. "Dr. Thompson is on line 1. It's urgent." Ava's hand shook slightly as she pressed the speaker button. Sarah Thompson's usually calm voice carried an edge of panic. "They're already freezing foundation accounts. Sophia's next treatment. Ava, without it, all the progress she's made, I'll handle it." Ava cut in, her voice steel. "No one's stopping. Treatment. Not now, not ever." She ended the call, turning to James. "Get me everything on Harrison, and I mean everything." "Already did." He placed a red folder on her desk. "You might want to sit down for this." The folder contained a single photograph. Robert Harrison, her chief rival on the board, entering a private hospital wing. The timestamp showed 2 years ago, but Ava recognized the foundation's logo on the door. "His daughter," James explained quietly. "The foundation covered her entire cancer treatment. He buried the records, but he used us," Ava whispered. "Used the foundation to save his own child. And now..." The office door opened again, admitting Margaret with her walker, followed by Daniel. His maintenance uniform was soaked from the rain, his eyes wild with worry. "They're saying on the news," he started. "I know." Ava held up a hand. "I'm handling it." "Like hell you are," Margaret interrupted, surprising everyone. "We're handling it." "Daniel, show her." He pulled out his phone, opening a local news live stream. The hospital entrance was crowded with people, patients, staff, families. Signs bobbed in the rain. "Save the ripple effect. Sinclair Tech, hope." And there in the front, holding a bright umbrella and speaking passionately to reporters, was Mrs. Rodriguez. "They want to stop the miracles," she was saying, her accent thick with emotion. "Let them come here first. Let them look in the eyes of these children. Let them tell my Sophia that her art doesn't matter, that her breathing doesn't matter, that her future doesn't matter." The camera panned across the crowd. Dr. Thompson stood with her entire staff. The art therapy kids had hung their digital artwork on the hospital walls, hundreds of butterflies glowing in the rain. Even Mr. Chen from the convenience store was there, handing out free coffee to the protesters. "It's not just us," Daniel said softly. "Every life you touched, every ripple you created, they're all coming back." Ava sank into her chair, overwhelmed. James cleared his throat. "There's more. The Hospital Workers' Union is threatening to strike if the foundation is dissolved. 3 major tech blogs are running exposés on Harrison's daughter's treatment. And your mother would like to say something." Margaret stepped forward, her walker forgotten as she drew herself up to her full height. "Harrison's not the only board member who used the foundation. Check the records. Check all of them. They all had Someone, a parent, a child, a spouse, they just forgot what it felt like to need help. The shareholder meeting, James added, his professional mask cracking into a slight smile. It's gone public. Live stream. They wanted to humiliate you? Fine. Let's show them what real power looks like. Ava looked around the room, at James's quiet determination, Margaret's fierce pride, Daniel's steady presence, at her screens showing the growing crowd below, at Sophia's butterflies still glowing on her wall, every ripple connecting building becoming a wave. "James," she said finally, "call Harrison. Tell him I want to make a deal." "A deal?" Daniel asked. Ava stood, touching one of Sophia's digital butterflies. It burst into a shower of light, each spark carrying a name, a story, a life changed. "No," she smiled, and for the first time in days she felt truly certain. "I want to make history. Mom, how'd you like to tell everyone the real story of how Dad built this company? And Daniel, I think it's time Sophia shared her art with a world." Outside, the rain began to ease, and a real butterfly landed on the window, its wings catching the breaking light. Sometimes, Ava thought, you had to weather the storm to find out how many people would hold umbrellas for you. The Sinclair Tech Auditorium had never been so full. Shareholders packed the main floor while hundreds more watched on screens throughout the building. The live stream counter ticked past 1 million viewers as Robert Harrison took the podium, his practiced corporate smile never reaching his eyes. "Today, we address a serious breach of fiduciary responsibility," he began. "While the Foundation's work is admirable, Ms. Sinclair's recent actions demonstrate a concerning lack of focus on core business objectives." In the front row, Ava sat between her mother and Daniel, Sophia's tablet in her lap displaying a message. "Remember, angels are strongest when they work together." James stood at the back, coordinating with Dr. Thompson via text as she managed the live feed from the hospital, where dozens of Foundation families had gathered to watch. Harrison's voice droned on about profit margins and shareholder value. But Ava noticed something he didn't, the way people shifted uncomfortably when he dismissed the Foundation's work as peripheral activities. The way eyes darted to their phones as social media filled with stories from families helped by the Ripple Effect initiative. "And so," Harrison concluded, "we move to vote on immediate leadership change and restructuring of non-essential charitable programs." "Point of order." Margaret's voice cut through the murmur, clear and strong despite her age. She rose slowly, Daniel discreetly helping her stand. "Before we vote, I believe shareholders deserve to hear the whole story. After all, some of us have been here since the beginning." Harrison's smile faltered. "Mrs. Sinclair, with all due respect—" "Respect?" Margaret's laugh held decades of boardroom battles. "Let's talk about respect, Robert. Let's talk about your daughter Emily's leukemia treatment 2 years ago. The Foundation covered all costs, as we did for Director Chen's mother's heart surgery and Director Walsh's son's rehabilitation." A rustle went through the crowd as Margaret named each board member, each secret help received. On the screens above, photographs appeared, James's handiwork, showing the very people who now sought to end the Foundation's work, once benefiting from its aid. "Mom," Ava whispered, "you don't have to—" "Oh, but I do," Margaret's voice carried, "to every corner, because they've forgotten what my husband built this company for." Thomas Sinclair started with nothing but broken computers and a dream of helping people. The technology was never the goal. It was the tool. She gestured to the screens, which now showed Sophia's digital butterflies dancing across hospital rooms, bringing color and hope to sterile spaces. "This is what real innovation looks like. Not just circuits and code, but connection, human connection." Harrison stepped forward, his composure cracking. "The Foundation helped Emily when no one else would. I'll always be grateful. But business is business? No." Ava stood, finally ready. "Business is people. Every processor we design, every system we build, exists to serve human needs. The Foundation isn't a charity program. It's a laboratory for real-world impact." She touched Sophia's tablet, and the screens filled with data. Medical costs reduced through preventive care, educational outcomes improved through art therapy, workforce productivity enhanced through family support programs. You want to talk about shareholder value? Ava's voice strengthened. Our stock isn't dropping because I lost focus. It's dropping because you lost sight of what makes us valuable. Every life we change creates ripples. Every family we help becomes part of our story. The hospital feed suddenly went live, showing the crowd gathered there. Mrs. Rodriguez had organized them into an impromptu art show, displaying works from foundation-supported programs. Dr. Thompson stood among her patients, their success stories speaking louder than any corporate presentation. So, yes, Ava concluded. Let's vote. But first, I have a proposal of my own. Full integration of foundation initiatives into our core business model, expansion of the ripple effect to all major markets, and a new board seat dedicated to community impact. She turned to Daniel, who hadn't expected this moment, but rose to meet it, starting with someone who reminded us what real value looks like. When he gave up a first-class seat to help a stranger, the vote, when it came, wasn't even close. Harrison and his allies found themselves facing not just shareholders, but a movement, a revolution of kindness that had been building ripple by ripple, story by story. As the results were announced, Sophia's latest creation filled the screens, a garden of digital butterflies, each one carrying a name, a hope, a future saved. Above, in them, words floated in gentle light. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of grace. In the celebration that followed, no one noticed Margaret slip away to the company's memorial wall, where she touched her husband's picture with trembling fingers. You see, Thomas, she remembered what matters most. Sophia's hospital room had transformed over the weeks of her recovery. Digital displays showcased her latest artwork, while get-well cards from the art therapy class created a colorful collage on the walls. But it was the small drawing on her bedside table that kept catching Daniel's eye. A simple sketch of two people sitting on a bench, watching butterflies dance in the sunset. She captured your expression perfectly, Ava said softly from the doorway, two coffee cups in hand. She'd traded her usual business attire for comfortable slacks and a sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. These evening visits had become their quiet ritual while Sophia slept after her treatments. I still can't believe how well she's responding, Daniel said, accepting the coffee. Real coffee, not hospital cafeteria brew. Dr. Thompson says she's never seen such improvement with the new protocol. Speaking of protocols, Ava settled into the chair beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The board approved the expansion today. 10 more hospitals will have full foundation support by next quarter. Sarah, Dr. Thompson, is heading up the medical advisory committee. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Sophia's chest rise and fall in peaceful sleep. The breathing tube was gone, replaced by a small oxygen monitor that sent data directly to the medical team's tablets, another Sinclair Tech innovation born from personal experience. You know, Daniel said carefully, Mrs. Rodriguez has a theory about all this. Does it involve angels again? Ava's smile held a warmth reserved for these private moments. Actually, she thinks we're living in one of her telenovelas. Says it has all the elements: billionaire CEO, humble working man, dramatic boardroom showdowns. He turned to find her watching him, something soft and uncertain in her eyes. And how does she think it ends? Ava's voice was barely a whisper before he could answer. Sophia stirred, blinking awake. Miss Ava, you're here for art time. Wouldn't miss it. Ava moved to sit on the edge of the bed, helping Sophia set up her tablet. What are we creating today? A special project. Close your eyes, Daddy. It's a surprise. Daniel obediently covered, his eyes listening to their quiet collaboration. Sophia's giggles mixed with Ava's gentle instructions, creating a melody he'd grown to treasure. Okay, ready? Sophia announced. Look, The digital display lit up with an animated scene, a garden filled with butterflies, but these weren't Sophia's usual designs. These butterflies carried moments, tiny snapshots of the past months playing out on their wings, the first-class seat exchange, the art therapy classes, the rain-soaked protest, the boardroom victory. And there in the center, that bench from Sophia's bedside drawing, now occupied by two figures watching the sunset together. "It's for the hospital gallery opening," Sophia explained proudly. "Mrs. Rodriguez says every good story needs a happy ending." Daniel felt Ava's hand find his, their fingers intertwining naturally, as if they'd been doing this forever. Through the window, the real Boston sunset painted the sky in colors that matched Sophia's digital creation. A knock at the door revealed Margaret, her walker adorned with a new butterfly sticker, courtesy of the art therapy class. "Hope I'm not interrupting." "Family time?" The word family hung in the air, feeling right in a way that made Daniel's heart skip. Sophia beamed, patting the bed beside her. "Just in time, Grandma Margaret. Help me convince Daddy and Ms. Ava to go on a real date. Mrs. Rodriguez says they're being too shy." "Sophia!" Daniel felt his face warm, but Ava's hand tightened on his. "Actually," Ava said, her professional confidence giving way to something more vulnerable, "I was thinking about the rooftop garden. They're projecting the children's digital art on the walls at sunset. Maybe we could go." Sophia and Margaret said in unison. Later, standing in that garden as Sophia's butterflies danced around them, Daniel finally answered Ava's earlier question. "Mrs. Rodriguez thinks it ends like this, not with grand gestures or dramatic speeches, but with quiet moments, where broken pieces fit together in ways that heal us all." Ava turned to him, the sunset catching the tears in her eyes. "And what do you think?" He brushed a strand of hair from her face, marveling at how natural it felt, how right. "I think some endings are really beginnings in disguise." Below them, Boston hummed with life. In Sophia's room, Margaret was probably teaching her another card game. In apartments across the city, families were receiving news that help was coming, that hope had found them. And here, surrounded by digital butterflies, carrying memories of how they found each other, two people who had forgotten how to trust in miracles remembered what it felt like to believe in them again. The blueprints for the new Sinclair Community Innovation Center covered Ava's desk, but she found herself drawn instead to the family photo recently added to her credenza. It showed an impromptu moment from Sophia's hospital discharge celebration. Daniel, explaining something about engine repair to Margaret, while Sophia taught James how to draw digital butterflies. Ava herself was caught mid-laugh, looking more relaxed than any magazine had ever captured her. "The contractors need final approval on the art therapy wing layout," James said, entering with his ever-present tablet. He paused, noticing her distraction. "That was a good day." "The best," Ava agreed, turning back to the blueprints. The new center would combine foundation offices, medical support services, and community programs under one roof. Sophia's digital art gallery would anchor the entrance, inspiring visitors with stories of hope and transformation. The board's quarterly review came in, James continued, his professional tone carrying a hint of satisfaction. "Foundation integration has increased overall market value by 12%. Turns out doing good is good business." Speaking of doing good, Ava pulled up a different set of plans on her tablet. "What do you think about this?" James studied the document, his eyebrows rising. "A permanent position for Daniel? Head of Community Engagement and Technical Services. He knows our families better than anyone. He's already informally advising on practical support needs, and his technical background." She trailed off, noting James's knowing smile. "What?" "Nothing. Just Mrs. Rodriguez will be thrilled. She's been running a betting pool on when you two would make things official." Ava felt her cheeks warm. The past months had been a careful dance of professional collaboration and personal connection. Weekly dinner dates had become nightly family meals. Sophia's art therapy sessions had evolved into family creative time. Even Margaret had taken to calling Daniel for evening chess matches. A knock at the door revealed Daniel himself, dressed in the business casual attire that still seemed to surprise him. "Sorry to interrupt, but Sophia insisted I deliver this personally." He handed over a digital tablet with a flourish. The screen displayed Sophia's latest creation, a detailed architectural rendering of the new center, but with a magical twist. Digital butterflies formed the walls and windows, each one containing a different story. Families helped, lives changed, communities strengthened. At the center, 4 figures stood together, their combined shadows forming the shape of wings. "She calls it building on hope," Daniel explained. "The Children's Gallery Committee chose it for the main entrance display." "It's perfect," Ava breathed, taking in the details. "She captured exactly what we're trying to build." James cleared his throat diplomatically. "I'll go check on those contractor approvals." He paused at the door. "Oh, and Mrs. Rodriguez called. Again, something about dinner preparations and special announcements." After he left, Daniel moved behind Ava's chair, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "About tonight, there's something I've been wanting to discuss." "Me too, actually." She turned, finding him closer than expected. "I've been working on restructuring the Foundation's leadership team. I found a house," he blurted out simultaneously, "near the new center. 3 bedrooms, a garden for Sophia's butterflies, walking distance to that Italian place you love." They both stopped, processing. "3 bedrooms?" Ava asked softly. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she'd come to adore. "Well, Sophia needs her art studio, and your mom mentioned she'd like to stay over sometimes to teach Sophia chess. And he took a breath. "And I thought maybe it could be our home, all of us." Ava stood slowly, her heart racing. "I was going to offer you a job. I was going to ask you to move in with us." They stared at each other for a moment before breaking into laughter. "Mrs. Rodriguez is going to be insufferable," Ava managed, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes. "She already is. She's been cooking all day for tonight's surprise dinner." Ava glanced at Sophia's artwork, at the family portrayed in light and color. "So, yes to both, the job and the house." Daniel's answer was to pull her close, his kiss tasting of coffee and promise. On her desk, Sophia's digital butterflies danced across the screen, building a home from hope and love and second chances. A text buzzed on both their phones. A photo from Margaret showing Sophia and Mrs. Rodriguez in the hospital garden, surrounded by real butterflies. The caption read, "Even nature knows when something's meant to be." Looking up at Daniel, seeing her future in his eyes, Ava thought about ripple effects and answered prayers and how sometimes the biggest dreams come true in the quietest ways. The jewelry store receipt burned a hole in Daniel's pocket as he stood in the hospital chapel, his reflection wavering in the same stained glass windows that had witnessed so many of his prayers. The ring wasn't expensive by Ava's standards. 3 months of his new salary instead of his old one, but Margaret had teared up when she saw it. "It looks just like the one Thomas gave me," she'd said, touching the modest diamond. "He'd saved for a year, back when we had nothing but dreams and determination. Ava never cared for flashy things, you know. She wears her mother's simple necklaces over all those designer pieces people give her." Now, studying the play of colored light across the chapel walls, Daniel found himself talking to Elena, as he often did in moments of change. "I think you'd like her, mi amor. She has your way of seeing the beauty in broken things, of helping without expecting praise. Sophia calls her our earth angel, says you sent her to us." "Talking to your wife again?" The gentle voice made him turn. Dr. Thompson stood in the doorway, her white coat catching the rainbow lights. "Some of us come here on break too. It helps, doesn't it?" Feeling that connection, Daniel nodded, touching the ring box through his pocket. "Elena always said, life was about learning to love twice as much as you fear. I just never thought I'd get the chance to prove her right." Sarah smiled, settling into a pew. You know, the day Ava first called about Sophia's case, I heard something in her voice I'd never heard before. Not the CEO speaking, but the woman who remembered what it meant to need a miracle. She paused. Have you decided how you're going to ask her? Sophia has it all planned out. She's creating this digital animation for the community center's opening ceremony next week. At the end, the butterflies are supposed to form the question in lights. He laughed softly. Mrs. Rodriguez is beside herself with excitement. She's already planning the menu for the engagement party. And you, are you ready? Daniel touched the small photo he carried in his wallet. Elena holding newborn Sophia. I used to think love was like a glass, you know? Once broken, you could never fill it the same way again. But Ava, she showed me it's more like Sophia's digital art. Every new line adds to the picture without erasing what was there before. His phone buzzed. A text from James. She's asking about the community center blueprints. How long should I stall her? Speaking of pictures, Sarah gestured to his tablet. Want to see something amazing? She pulled up Sophia's latest medical scans. Look at the difference. 6 months ago, and now. This isn't just improvement, Daniel. This is transformation, and not just physically. Her art therapy assessments show incredible emotional growth. She's helping other kids now, teaching them to create their own digital safe spaces. Another text lit up his phone, this one from Margaret. Found Thomas's old cufflinks. He'd want you to have them for the big day. The chapel's peace was suddenly interrupted by the staccato tap of Mrs. Rodriguez's heels. Daniel, mi hijo, she's on her way down. James couldn't stall her anymore. Quick! Sarah stood, professional calm, giving way to conspiratorial excitement. Go to the art therapy room. Sophia's waiting with the practice run of the animation. We'll keep Ava busy with paperwork for at least an hour. As Daniel hurried through the familiar corridors, he passed the spot where he'd first really talked to Ava, where she'd helped him fix the digital display, the place where Sophia had taught her to draw butterflies, the garden where they'd shared their first kiss. In the art therapy room, Sophia sat surrounded by tablets and screens, her fingers dancing across the displays as she refined her creation. She looked up as he entered, her smile so much like Eleanor's it caught his breath. "Daddy! I added something special. Look!" The animation sparkled to life, butterflies swirling to form not just the proposal, but a story, their story. Each butterfly, and carried a memory, the first-class seat, the medical bills, the art classes, the boardroom battle, the quiet evenings building a family from pieces of hope and grace. "It's perfect, Mija," he whispered, holding her close. "Just perfect." Outside, the window, a real butterfly landed on the sill, its wings catching the afternoon light. Elena had always said butterflies were messages from angels. Looking at his daughter's art, feeling the ring box against his heart, Daniel finally understood. Sometimes the messages were about letting go, and sometimes they were about holding on to a love you never expected to find twice. The Sinclair Community Innovation Center gleamed in the late afternoon sun, its glass walls reflecting the gathered crowd. Inside, Sophia's digital butterflies danced across specially designed display surfaces, telling stories of transformation that had brought them all to this moment. The private ribbon-cutting ceremony would start in an hour, but Daniel couldn't stop pacing the entrance hall. "Everything's perfect, mi hijo," Mrs. Rodriguez assured him, adjusting his tie for the 10th time. She'd insisted on buying him a new suit for the occasion, deep blue, with a subtle pattern that matched Sophia's dress. The food is ready, the flowers are placed, and James has the music cued. Even the weather is cooperating. Indeed, the forecasts predicted storm had given way to a spectacular sunset, as if even nature understood the importance of this evening. Through the glass walls, Daniel could see Dr. Thompson organizing the children from the art therapy program, each wearing T-shirts decorated with their own digital creations. "Daddy!" Sophia called from the central gallery where she was fine-tuning her displays. Come see the final version. The main animation began with a single butterfly emerging from a first-class boarding pass, then multiplied as it traced their journey. Hospital corridors transforming into gardens of light, corporate boardrooms filling with dancing colors, quiet, evening moments captured in wings of memory. Sophia had outdone herself, turning their story into a symphony of light and motion. "It's beautiful, Mija," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "just like your mama's paintings." Sophia touched the small locket she wore, Elena's last gift, then hugged him fiercely. "She helped me design it, you know. In my dreams, she shows me how to make the colors dance." James appeared, tablet in hand as always, but today his professional demeanor barely contained his excitement. "She's leaving the office now. Margaret's with her, keeping her distracted with foundation paperwork. Everything's set for your speech. Before the ribbon cutting, and then magic," Mrs. Rodriguez finished, dabbing at her eyes. Where did I put the tissues? I promised myself I wouldn't cry until the actual proposal." The next hour passed in a blur of final preparations. Board members arrived, many of them now strong supporters of the Foundation's work after their own stories had come to light. Hospital staff and Foundation families filled the entrance hall, their excited chatter echoing off the glass walls. Daniel's hand kept straying to his pocket, feeling the ring box and the worn photo of Elena. During his darkest days, as a struggling, single father, he'd never imagined finding himself here, surrounded by so much love and possibility. A ripple of anticipation went through the crowd as Ava's car pulled up. She stepped out, wearing a simple blue dress that matched their color scheme perfectly. Margaret's doing, no doubt, her eyes widening as she took in the transformed building. "Welcome," Daniel said, stepping forward to take her hand, "to your dream made real." Ava's fingers trembled slightly in his. "Our dream," she corrected softly. "All of this, it's what we built together." The ceremony began with speeches from board members and community leaders, but Daniel barely heard them. He was lost in watching Ava's face as she experienced Sophia's digital story for the first time, seeing their journey through his daughter's eyes. Finally, it was his turn to speak. The ring box felt heavy in his pocket as he stepped up to the podium. But when he looked out at his assembled family, not just Sophia, but Mrs. Rodriguez dabbing her eyes in the front row, Margaret holding her walker decorated with butterflies, James trying to maintain his professional composure, Dr. Thompson surrounded by her smiling patients, he felt nothing but certainty. 3 years ago, he began, his voice steady, I made a simple choice on an airplane, not because I was trying to be heroic, but because my late wife Elena taught me that kindness matters more than comfort. I didn't know then that giving up a seat would mean gaining a future, that helping a stranger would mean finding a home. Ava stood in the front row, tears shining in her eyes as Sophia's butterflies swirled around them all, building to the moment they'd practiced so many times. Daniel touched the ring in his pocket, ready to continue his speech, ready to watch the digital proposal unfold, exactly as they'd planned. But sometimes the most perfect moments aren't the ones we plan. A real butterfly flew in through the open doors, its wings catching the sunset light. It danced through Sophia's digital creations, landing for a brief moment on Elena's picture in the display before circling Ava like a blessing. And Daniel knew, with sudden clarity, that this was his moment. Not the practiced speech or the planned animation, but this impossible, perfect convergence of past and present, of loss and love, of endings and beginnings. He stepped away from the podium, following his heart instead of the script. Time seemed to slow as Daniel moved away from the podium, each step carrying him closer to Ava. Sophia's digital butterflies swirled around them, their light casting soft patterns across Ava's face as she watched him approach. The real butterfly that had flown in still danced through the display, as if choreographing this unscripted moment. "I had a whole speech prepared," Daniel said softly, taking Ava's hands in his, "about ripple effects and transformations and building futures from moments of kindness. But standing here, seeing that butterfly come in like a message from Elena, his voice caught, and he felt Ava's fingers tighten encouragingly around his. The truth is simpler than any speech. When I lost Elena, I thought I'd never find love. Again, I focused on being Sophia's father, on surviving each day, on keeping her memories alive. But you, he touched her cheek gently, brushing away a tear. You didn't just help us survive. You taught us how to live again. In the front row, Mrs. Rodriguez was openly crying now, while Margaret held Sophia's hand, both of them glowing with joy. James had given up all pretense of professional distance, his tablet forgotten as he watched with the rest of the crowd. That day on the plane, giving up my seat wasn't a sacrifice, it was instinct. Just like falling in love with you wasn't a choice. It was as natural as breathing. You didn't sweep in like some fairy tale savior. You walked beside us, stepped by careful step, building something real and precious and true. Daniel reached into his pocket, but instead of the ring box, he pulled out the worn photo of Elena and Sophia. Elena used to say that love isn't about filling empty spaces. It's about growing your heart to hold more than you thought possible. He showed Ava the photo, his voice tender. She was right. Loving you doesn't diminish her memory. It honors everything she taught me about grace and courage and second chances. Now he took out the ring box, and a collective gasp went through the crowd. Sophia's digital butterflies gathered more densely around them, their wings carrying snippets of their shared journey. Every smile, every tender moment, every step that had led them here. So this isn't the elaborate proposal we planned, Daniel continued, sinking to one knee. There's no perfect speech or practiced timing, just my heart, which has somehow grown big enough to hold both the love I lost and the love I found. Just our family, Sophia, your mother, even Mrs. Rodriguez, with her telenovela predictions. This earned a watery laugh from the crowd, watching two broken pieces become something whole and beautiful and new. He opened the ring box, revealing the modest diamond that had made Margaret cry. Ava Sinclair, who taught me that angels sometimes wear business suits and draw butterflies with children, will you marry me? Will you keep building this miracle with us? One ripple effect at a time? Ava knelt with him, her usual corporate poise completely forgotten as tears streamed down her face. Daniel Reyes, she whispered, touching the ring with trembling fingers. Who taught me that true wealth isn't in bank accounts, but in acts of kindness. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The crowd erupted in cheers as Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, but neither of them noticed. They were lost in a kiss that felt like coming home, like prayers answered and dreams fulfilled and love multiplied rather than divided. Sophia bounded forward, wrapping them both in a fierce hug. Look, she cried, pointing to the displays. Her planned proposal animation had transformed, responding to the moment. Digital butterflies spelled out not just, "Will you marry me?" but, "We're." Finally official, in sparkling letters, making everyone laugh through their tears. Margaret made her way to them, her walker forgotten as James and Dr. Thompson supported her on either side. Thomas would be so proud, she told Ava, touching the simple ring. Of both of you, of all of this. Mrs. Rodriguez was already on her phone, presumably activating her elaborate engagement party plans. The hospital staff and foundation families surged forward with congratulations, each one sharing how this love story had touched their own lives. Through it all, that single real butterfly kept dancing through the digital displays, its wings catching the last rays of sunset. Sophia watched it with knowing eyes. See, Daddy, Mama's happy too. She sent her own butterfly to celebrate. Daniel held Ava close, feeling the perfect rightness of this moment. Around them, their extended family celebrated not just a proposal, but the triumph of love over loss, of hope over fear, of the heart's infinite capacity to heal and grow and love again. The butterfly finally flew out through the open doors, carrying their joy into the gathering dusk. Behind it, Sophia's digital creations formed a garden of light and memory, where past and present danced together in perfect harmony. 1 year later, Sophia's art filled an entire wall of the Sinclair Community Innovation Center's main gallery. Her latest piece, unveiled for the center's first anniversary, showed a family portrait unlike any other. Digital butterflies forming the shapes of 6 people, Daniel and Ava in the center, Sophia between them, Margaret sitting in her favorite chair, Mrs. Rodriguez with her ever-present smile, and a softly glowing figure that everyone knew was Elena, watching over them all. "My 2 mums," Sophia explained to visitors, her breathing strong and clear as she gestured to the artwork. "One in heaven sending butterflies, and one on earth helping me draw them." The Foundation's Ripple Effect initiative had expanded to 50 hospitals nationwide, each one featuring an art therapy program inspired by Sophia's digital innovations. Dr. Thompson headed the Medical Advisory Board, implementing protocols that had improved outcomes for hundreds of children. Even Harrison had come around, his daughter now leading a support group for young patients. In their garden at home, real butterflies danced among the flowers Mrs. Rodriguez had planted for the wedding. The ceremony had been small, but perfect. Sophia walking Ava down the aisle while Margaret walked Daniel, James managing to maintain his composure while serving as best man, and Mrs. Rodriguez alternating between happy tears and triumphant, "I told you so's." To anyone who would listen, Ava still ran Sinclair Tech, but with a deeper understanding of its true purpose. The company's new mission statement, displayed prominently in the lobby, read, "Technology connects circuits. Humanity connects hearts. We build both." Their stock value had never been higher. Daniel divided his time between overseeing community programs and teaching technical skills to Foundation families, helping others find the same second chances that had transformed his life. Each night, he added to the family photo album, both digital and print, capturing moments that proved happy endings weren't just for fairy tales. On this particular evening, as sunset painted the sky in familiar shades of hope, the family gathered in their garden. Sophia showed Margaret her latest digital creation, while Mrs. Rodriguez set out her famous empanadas. Ava sat on their porch swing, her hand resting gently on her growing belly, their newest miracle due in spring. Daniel touched the worn photo in his wallet one last time, before adding it to Sophia's digital gallery. Elena, holding newborn Sophia, her smile blessing the future she couldn't see but had somehow helped create. Above them, a real butterfly landed on the gallery's digital display, its wings catching the light just as they had that day on the plane when a simple act of kindness changed everything. "Look, Daddy," Sophia whispered. "Mama sent another butterfly to celebrate." "No, mija," Daniel smiled, drawing both his daughters, one here, one on the way, close. "She sent us an angel. We just had to learn how to recognize her." Ava joined them, her eyes bright with happy tears as Sophia's butterflies danced around them all, carrying stories of loss and love, endings and beginnings, and the infinite ways the heart learns to heal, to hope, and to hold on to the miracles that sometimes come disguised as ordinary moments of grace.